Welcome to the LivBtr podcast. Today we have on one of my favorite people and the most incredible woman. I could gush and gush, but her name is Anna David, and Anna is one of the world's leading experts on how entrepreneurs can build a business from a book. She's also a New York Times bestselling author of 8 books. She has a new book coming out pretty soon, which we're going to talk about. She's appeared on Good Morning America, The Talk, CBS Morning Show. She's a 3 times TEDx speaker, which I've always admired her for. And I want to hear about how that journey's impacted her overall career. So many wonderful things, so many inspiring things. She's pushed me to live better. She's always supported me in my career. So welcome to the show, Anna. We're so honored to have you.
I just adore you. Jay, I'm sure I'll adore you too, but I don't know, Erica, from the minute I met you, it was like kind of a soul sister vibe, but also it's like both from Northern California. And I don't know if you remember this, but we talked about let's start a TEDx event. Like the day we met, we were like, let's do a TEDx event.
You're the one that inspired that idea for me. And I'm still like, it's still going in my head, but yes. And then you did it. Then you are a TEDx speaker.
3 times.
But we were gonna start a TEDx event, which it's not that it's impossible, it's that it was very ambitious considering that we were very busy people. But so it's much. You can totally do.
I know. I'd love to do one. It's one of my goals, Jay.
To do one.
So you know what? It's funny because I'm so fortunate to know so many people who have done them and helped to actually, prepare them a little bit. Which is fascinating to me because it's like when you see what you need to do in that time frame and the preparation that goes into it, I need to do one at some point. Like it's on the bucket list for sure.
Yeah.
The hardest part about it is locating which events accept applicants.
Yeah.
Honestly, that is so hard. Everything else, once you've accomplished that,
there's so many like logistical things about it in general, right? And then, people kind of have it down to a science like you who did it not once, but 3 times, which is really, really cool. And Anna, when Erica was telling me about you and I did my own research on you, I'm blown away with your background. It's very impressive.
Oh,
well, you've always, Anna, you've always, and we'll get into we could tell the audience what you are doing in the moment and kind of maybe just an overview of your career. I mean, you have your hands in the film industry. I know she has a best-selling book called Party Girl.
Yeah.
Well, here, I let people get away with calling that a best-selling book. The truth is, it wasn't. It was the book I wrote with Tom Sizemore. That's the New York Times. May rest in peace. The New York Times best-selling book. We can talk about what that was like too. But people will always mix it up, and they'll be like, the New York Times best-selling author of Party Girl. That's accurate. I've just very strategically placed the words so that people don't know it's not Party Girl, because that's the one that should have been the bestseller. But yes, we are literally next week signing the movie deal. It's been a very long negotiation. But the amazing part is they actually have the money. So unlike all the other deals Party Girl has had,
that's amazing.
this
How
one
awesome
actually
is
will
that?
happen.
Congratulations.
It will be amazing.
But it's been you've been
awesome.
working on that since I don't know, a long time, right? You've been trying to, it's Hollywood, right? Tell everybody how Hollywood is, Anna.
It's madness. I mean, the best way to describe Hollywood is when Party Girl first came out, before it all went awry, because it was a Judith Regan book. And the reason the book didn't do well is that the company was disbanded a few months before the book came out. So it was like highly anticipated, so much buzz, movie rights, bidding war, all this stuff. And then there was no one in 2007. If there was no one to go pitch your book to Barnes and Noble, there was no way people would buy it. And so it was this bizarre thing where it had all this press and all this buzz and didn't sell well. But what happened is there was so much hype about the movie that I was wooed. And this mother-daughter producing team wooed me and said, if you sell the rights to us, we will get the screenwriter, any screenwriter in the world to do it. And I go, you're like a true Gen Xer. I go, well, the woman who wrote Reality Bites. And
Wow.
they're like, no problem. And then that happens. And then months pass and they're not returning my emails and my, and then I get an email from my agent at CAA because I was fancy then. And he writes, congratulations, your rights have reverted back to you. And I'm like, what does that mean? And he never responded. So I think I Googled, what does that mean? And what that means is it's over. And so I never found out, like, were they even telling me the truth? So I write this story like 5 years later about like, oh my God, reality really does bite. Like, this was my favorite movie. And I heard that this woman wrote the screenplay, but it's probably not even true because Hollywood is so full of it. And she saw it and she emailed me and she's like, did you never see the script? Helen Childress. And she sent me the script. So it was the most surreal thing. It's me reading the screenplay of the book loosely based on my life from 10 years before. And it was all crazy. But now I wrote the script. It's crazy. So, and so Hollywood is such nonsense that I wrote the script and we're producing it independently. Sorry, I know I'm just like, can't stop talking, but it's also weird. So I sign an option deal with this guy to do a low budget version. I'm like, I don't care. I just want it made. I'm tired of these pie in the sky dreams. And he partners with one of my best friends from college who was engaged to my roommate who I hadn't seen in 20 years, who's also sober. So it's like this beautiful full circle.
And Jay, Anna was a party girl. Like Jay and I went to college together, Anna. So
we did.
You could imagine,
Arizona.
So, like, we're party people. But it's a great book, and I got the newer version. Anna sent it to me, and I read it. Anyway, the story is.
It's really interesting because when Erica and I were inspired to do this LivBtr podcast, it was very much I'm sober now, and I really just started this alcohol-free journey in the last few years, and then committed to removing alcohol entirely. And everything in my life has elevated as a result of it. And I just don't see any upside. But it's interesting because the conversations we're having are with so many like-minded people that have like figured that out in their own way. And we all have a very similar kind of background, being party people and then, being able to realize there's a better way, because I know so many people who are party people and just continue to party with kids and in their 40s and 50s. And I don't know how they can do it at this point.
I don't either. I mean, what's interesting to me is when I got sober, so it was 2000, I was bottomed out. Like I'm a person who needed to go to rehab and all of that. And in the last 10 years or so, this movement, this sort of AF movement has really sprouted up where you don't have to hit bottom. You're just choosing to live an alcohol-free life. Was
alcohol your main issue?
Coke. But, once I kind of got out of denial, I saw that alcohol had always been an issue, but I didn't. Let's just say the Coke problem blinded me.
It has a way of doing
problem.
Well, they're usually married together to some degree, right?
Does.
They're like not for everyone.
They are. Yeah. I mean, not for everyone, but
So Anna, so just so interesting. Like, not only if you've been a writer and writing books, and they were great books, and you've been have your hands in everything, to start a business that you're encouraging other writers to write books is so incredible. Can you tell everybody a little bit about Legacy Launchpad and how that's come to be and what you're doing now and how people could?
Yes. It's kind of like getting sober. I started a business because I had no other options. Publishing and writing really fell apart. That was a business when I was doing it. And I was, writing for New York Times and Cosmo and Playboy, and it was a living. And then suddenly this thing happens where you're not only not paid to write anymore, you're paying to write. And I felt like, well, I have no other skills. So what am I supposed to do? And I met my mentor in 2016, this guy, Joe Polish, who's also very much a recovery advocate in recovery. And he sort of introduced me to all these entrepreneurs. And I saw like, oh, there are all these people who have built a business around their passion. And then I had people coming to me and asking me if I would write their books. Anyway, basically, do you know Darren Prince? You know Darren, do you? So he's a sports agent, and he came to me and said, I want to be a recovery advocate, like in addition to being a sports agent. I was like, oh, that's cute. You don't just decide to do that. And then he said, will you write my book? And I said, no. And he said, please. And then I had no money. And I said, well, what if I hired a girl, someone I knew was looking for work? And so he goes, as long as you edit it, I don't care who writes it. So I present him with this manuscript, and he's like, okay, great, I need it published. And I go, I have no idea how to do that. And he said, well, I'll pay you to figure it out. And so I figured it out. And then we release his book, and he is on, he's a hustler. He's on all the TV shows. He's on Lewis House's podcast. He's on Jay Shetty's podcast. He just works it. He's getting spokesperson deals. He's getting speaking gigs. And I was like, wow, a book really is the thing. So we actually technically don't work with writers. Like, this is a business that is for CEOs and founders who want to be seen, who are ready to be seen as the experts that they are. So we write my team writes the books, and then we put them through the publishing process in a way like traditional publishing, but they own the rights.
Oh, this is fascinating because similarly to a lot of like my friends giving TED Talks, a lot of them are writing books. And actually a friend just sent me their manuscript today to see if I could link them with any significant people that would, help them promote the book or give a testimonial, things of that nature. And as you're saying that, it makes so much sense to somebody. Again, I aspire to write a book at some point, and I've committed to that. But I like when you say somebody who's not a writer, I'm not a writer. I struggle with where do I start, and everything you said makes so much sense to people who I think have it on their mind, that are thought leaders and want to take that step, but just don't know where to go.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, if you are not a writer, it really depends on your goal. I meet people who just want the experience of writing the book. If you want a book that will transform your business and it's going to be a how-to book or something like that, hire somebody. Yeah. It's just like, it's just going to be a better book. And I look at it as a legacy. So why would you not want it to be the best possible thing? And people think, oh, I don't want a ghostwriter. I want to do it. Well, they're like really a documentarian. They're taking your words and putting them on the page in a way that they've been trained to do. I would say the biggest issue I run into or I hear about is that people, they want to sell traditionally, because they have all these delusions and they're like, oh, well, I want to hit the New York Times list. I want a book tour. I want my book in bookstores. And the reality is the biggest curse, first of all, traditional publishers, big ones, aren't going to buy any book. They don't care about the quality. They care about the audience. Do you have an audience? And it's not because they want to sell people. Books. It's because they're business people. And because of the conflict, I feel like the confusion around art and commerce, people think, well, no, my idea is amazing. Right. It kind of doesn't matter. And traditional publishing, I don't know about your experience, Erica, but they did nothing for me. And you're far better off controlling the process yourself. However, it's like our company is super expensive. I know ones that are not, but I don't think they do. Well, Anna, I think
so. When I wrote Rewired and I was looking how to get it published, should I go? I had a PR lady, Jackie Jordan, that was helping me, and she said, and I was like at this crossroads: should I self-publish? Should I, I have I have an in with a publisher, and my distributor is Penguin Random House now, and so to have Penguin attached to it is a big name for me. And she said to me too, is this about money? And at the time, I'm like, no, it's about labor of love, sharing my ideas around recovery and what helped me in rewiring and all this stuff that I wrote about. And so she said, then go a traditional publisher, because that way you'll be on Amazon, you'll get in bookstores, you could get on news shows. They don't have a self-published person going and a Good Morning America show, right? Or they don't have, this is what she said at the time. Well, no, I think it's changed.
Not
because
true.
2015 was when Rewired was published. It was a tiny bit different. But anyway, now fast forward all these years later, and Rewired's still selling well, and I see how much they're getting and how much I'm getting from something I could have done myself. Although I would have needed help from, a company to kind of, guide me and, in the self-publishing world. So regardless, my path has been a traditional publisher. And yes, financially, it doesn't, you don't get much from it, but, I feel like it does give you credibility. It's the best business card. I've never had to ever advertise for my private practice. People find me through my book, even to this day. So There's a lot of benefits from it, right?
Well, okay. First of all, your experience was highly unusual because your book took off, and that happens to very few people. Like, your book sold a lot better than 99.9%. You know that. I hope you know that, which is why you're getting screwed by your publisher. Most people are not in that position. They just don't sell it. The average book sells 300 copies. So today, with the major publishers have all these divisions, so nobody knows that like Catapult Publishing is Random House or whatever it is. And so I think there's absolutely no difference. I couldn't get on Good Morning America when I was a Harper author, Simon & Schuster author, but I got on it when I was a Legacy Launchpad author.
It doesn't.
It makes no difference.
Like most other industries, right? I mean, it's,
my traditionally published
there
books,
used to be almost like a roadmap you had to follow in most things, and then the internet came along, and you could do things differently.
And I think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Because
it's fascinating though, because I'm just learning so much about the actual process from two amazing people who have written many successful books, and it's awesome. It really is. But Anna, actually, you have another book that's up and coming. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, that is called On Good Authority. Let's see if I can get the subtitle right. How to prepare for, promote, and profit from the how-to book that makes you the go-to expert. So it is literally exactly what I've been doing for the past 5 years for CEOs and founders, and it's so, and by the way, their books have gotten on the Wall Street Journal list. They have gotten on the Today Show. They've gotten in the New York Times. They've, so I've had this podcast that's all about publishing books. I took the interviews from that podcast, and I've had, Robert Greene and Chris Voss and Lori Gottlieb. I actually didn't use her interview, but like all the entrepreneurs, I used their interview to kind of just do a research project and figure out what works. And that's what the book is. But what I'm proud of is that it's short and funny. People keep telling me how funny it is because I'm so tired of reading how-to books that are boring. And long.
I love it. No, but you always have you have a great way. I mean, as you'll see her writing, but you have a great way of bringing just the fun into things, I think. And there's a lightness about the way you explain things and a simplicity, which I really love. I think because people don't really need a whole it gets too complicated and all these, just keep it simple. Tell us how, tell us what we should do. And I think that's going to be a great book. I'm excited. Can't wait.
I'm really proud of it.
It's such a great concept. And to you, that's obvious. You've been spending your life on that and helping people become thought leaders. And it's interesting because anytime that I talk to people about the idea of a book or even personal branding, right? Like, what are you known for? What do you need to become top of mind, right? So the how is the most difficult thing for me to actually say and get across. But, you're an expert at that. And I think somebody like myself would need help understanding how to make that translate to a book.
Yeah, because we also all have expert blindness. So we don't understand when we learned what we learned. So we forget that it's not obvious. And that's something I learned. I got beta readers for this book. I'd never done that before. And it was actually a very painful process because I got the wrong beta readers. I got dreamers. I got people that didn't want to hear, oh, the average book sells 300 copies. You're never going to sell to a traditional publisher, blah, 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 blah. And they gave me really harsh feedback. And I realized I've really got to make it clear this book is not for them. I almost put a quiz at the beginning that said, if you don't pass this quiz, put this book down, because I don't have patience for the dreamers. It's like, it drives me crazy. It's like, I know people who had #1 New York Times bestselling books, who were on Oprah, whose books were made into movies, who can't rub two nickels together because they didn't do a how-to book. They didn't do a book that would serve their bottom line. So, but to like, if you want the simplest way to like, how do you do it? My book is for blank.
Love that.
Who want blank. So that they can blank.
I got to jot that down.
And picture, you can actually, I have a download that gives it, it's bookelevatorpitch.com. But it's like, picture who you know, who would really wants to know about it, would benefit from it. Picture them on every page, like they're who you're writing for. Because if there's one, there's many. And people go, well, then my niche is too small. And I always say, there's a Facebook group called Let's All Pretend to Be Ants in a Colony, and it has 1.8 million members. So your niche is not too small.
But it's an ongoing process, I think, for all of us. I mean, you yourself keep reinventing, like we're all reinventing, right? That's how this is what I want to kind of go with this conversation is just, we're all, I mean, call us sober, but we're all, we're all on a healthy path. I think all three of us right now, and people that are listening, hopefully are listening because they want to live better. And that's the name of our podcast. And so speaking to everybody that's listening, that wants to live better, that's wants to stay on this path. Can you tell us a little bit about the importance of evolution for you and reinvention, and why you have, like, I've known you for a while now, and I feel like I've seen a couple chapters, and I know now you're even in a different chapter, and I haven't talked to you in a couple, in depth in a couple years. I was pregnant on your TV show. Remember the show you had with my second baby?
Yes.
So that was probably like
second baby,
2.5, 3 years. She's 3 now. So 3 years ago. So can you tell us too, evolution, pushing,
Well, I'm obsessed with that topic, actually. And I think, because my boyfriend and I were talking about, like, my evolution, like, especially it's like, I became known, whatever. I got public as a expert on celebrities. Then that moved into addiction and recovery. Then it moved into, wait, I'm skipping one. Sorry, I skipped sex when I was a sex expert on TV. Then recovery, now writing. And to me, I know people who have been talking about the same thing for 30 years, and maybe that works for them. It does not work for me. So what's my next one or last one going to be? And, even if it's in 20 years, I do it, it's going to be reinvention. Because that's what's fascinating to me. Like, if you look at, sort of like, what's her name? Martha Stewart. I don't know if she's a good example, like model to cook, to now she's doing things
now
with
she's
Snoop
smoking pot with Snoop Dogg at night, making music.
But it's like Ariana Huffington, politician's wife, then, Democrat, now sleep expert. It really is about that evolution. And I would say, when I knew you, I was editing, when I first met you, I was editing an addiction recovery website, and it was really not a good time. I was working for these like very, let's call it abusive people. And I hadn't really bought into this notion that like I could have my own thing. I really thought I had to work for people. And I don't think I ever thought that I would get kind of what I want. And I met this awesome guy.
Wow,
I think it's now been 4.5 years. We live together. he's nothing like what, he's wonderful. You know what I mean? I was so used to the not wonderful in all areas.
I feel like, I very much,
and it really is possible.
Living with the concept of designing your ideal life. And that's very much what I've done for the last 20 years as an entrepreneur. And a lot of people, like you're describing, focus on one thing. My core business is commercial real estate and helping brands grow across the country. But I do so many other things. So a lot of times when people say to me like, oh, Jay, what do you do? I actually have a hard time describing exactly what it is that I do. And I think nowadays that's way more acceptable too, because again, you can have a podcast on the Smurfs and make $1 million a year, to your point earlier about being very niched and so on and so forth. And I think, it's really all about the evolution of yourself, and you can really design your lifestyle in any way that you want to. And you don't have to necessarily be sitting at a desk every day, 9 to 5. And in a post-COVID environment, that's even, more acceptable, right? It's actually almost customary now. So, evolution is really important.
I have a question, Anna. So for people listening too, that say, okay, well, like, how did you get from not wonderful guy to a wonderful guy? How did you get from thinking you had to work for people to now having the courage to build your own? What's going on in here for people listening of like, what does it take? And I mean, Jay and I talk about this all the time of like even Jay's evolution in the past year of like, I know what's kind of gone on in his head. We've talked about it. Like, what do you tell yourself? How do you is it using positive affirmation? Is it manifesting? Tell us how you went. Like, how did you get the guy? How did you
What's
get
your secret to having it all?
Because what do people have to do?
Well, I'll tell you. Okay. Well, for me, the secret, so cliche, was surrender. The problem with surrender is it's the human inclination to only do it when you're so desperate. So it was deep pain. Deep pain is what got me to go to rehab. And then while my life got a lot better, I still had stuff to work through. So for me, EMDR was like the rewiring for me. And I only went to EMDR. Basically, I kind of always knew I was destined for EMDR, but who's like, today I want to go and cry a lot and go through my worst memories. And so I was only willing to do it when I went through this breakup with this loser who destroyed me, because the truth is the breakups with the losers are not about the losers. They're about unsolved trauma. And it's like, I do believe the universe, it's like, it'll give you these lessons over and over again, trying to get you to change, but we only change when it's so loud that we're curled up in the fetal position, finally like, okay, fine. What am I supposed to do? And so I went to EMDR because I was crying all the time anyway. So I was like, at least it's a private place to cry, And she's super nice. Like, she'll just let me do this. And I started to do this, and I do not understand how it worked, but I just saw myself differently. I actually feel like I saw myself for the first time. I was 15 years sober, and I finally was like, wow, this is like, I'm magnificent.
As you are.
As are you, but I couldn't see it and I couldn't feel it. And all I know is after EMDR, it's like I met Jim. My business blew up. I bought a house. It's everything happened then, and I can't even explain what exactly it was, or give that as like, I'm not saying go to EMDR, but I would say get that the other is possible. I remember sitting with my therapist, not the EMDR one, the one before, and going, I worked for somebody who used to throw phones at me and call me dumb. And I remember saying to her, when he called me dumb today, I didn't cry. I think that's really good. And she goes, that is good, but why don't we work on getting your job where someone's not calling you dumb? And I was like, or throwing a phone. And I said, well, that's just what work is. And I remember she looked around her office. She's like, no one's abusing me. And I didn't know it was possible. And I will say a lot of women that I know get caught in the thing that I was very much caught in, which was like obsession and kind of getting that, like, when you're obsessed, it's actually trauma, in my opinion.
Well, it sounds like you've also found, like, how to honor yourself, and, I guess in whether it's EMDR, but the subconscious belief that you now are worthy of the things you already knew you were worthy for, but couldn't get out of your own way, or in some way.
Yeah. But I don't know that I knew I was worthy of them. I don't know. I just know that's what I was.
I'm happy you've arrived at a place. And
then some.
Thank you.
And then some. It's amazing. And I think it's really, inspiring for a lot of people that are, women and men that, I think have valued work as something that is kind of their identity for a long time. And, I talk to a lot of my clients now that are older and haven't found love yet. Not older, but like late 30s, 40s, and haven't found love yet. And because they've worked and their work is like kind of their priority, and it's and also to say that you can have both, or you can create room for both, or you could create space for both, or you're allowed, you don't have to choose. Because I feel like, it's our world is changing, and a lot of people I know, I think, are, struggling with whether I can be successful, or, have a family. And, it's like, it's just different. It's changed. So I'm glad that we're talking about that. Yeah.
Well, and the big secret is that the right relationship makes you more successful. All my stuff blew up when I met him. Part of it is he's got a million ideas. Literally, it's like, oh, well, why don't you try this? And but also, like, when you're experiencing being loved, I think that opens you up.
Right.
It's the opposite of taking up time.
That's true. That's a good way to put it. And I think, it's everything is how you frame it, right? And like how you see it in the world. So that's true. Yeah. So, and then tell us just really quick, like, where can everyone find you? Where could people, read more about Legacy Launchpad, about the movie, tell us. Yeah.
I mean, so social media, I'm at Anna B. David, like, on all the things. And then, there's I have too many websites. You should see my GoDaddy domain thing. But on goodauthoritybook.com is, I just suddenly doubted, is that the domain? What's that terrible noise? So let me just make sure that's on goodauthoritybook.com is, you can find the book, you can opt into my email list. Amazing. You can do all the things. But now I can't see you. Oh, there we are.
And I love your email list. Your emails are hysterical. They're really funny, and they catch your eye.
How do I get on that?
You're so gifted. No, she's really gifted, I must say. Like, I'll scroll through like a million, people send, but hers I always stop because she has such a catchy title or something. You have quite a great sense of humor on top of all your other amazing attributes. So, yeah.
That is so sweet. You can get there by going to authoritysecrets.club. Go sign up. It's fun, and it's educational about building authority.
And thank you, Anna. You also wrote a blurb for my recent book, so I really appreciate that too. You've always been such a supporter.
And I loved it, and I'm kind of getting more into the mantra thing.
It's just talking to yourself, right? Like we could always work on what's going on in here and how we communicate with our one and only biggest champion, ourselves. So we kind of have to keep on nurturing that relationship. That's really how I see affirmation. Yeah.
Well, here's the miracle about it is I was never really a believer, and I've had trouble sleeping like on and off my whole life. The one I do if I wake up is I fall back to sleep easily. I say it over and over. It always works. Forget Ambien. An amazing tip. Just say that. You know,
that is a huge tip because I was up half of last night, so I'm going to start implementing.
Yeah, me too. Love that.
It's so good. Okay, well, adore you.
Thank you so much for being with us.
Well, nice to meet you.
Absolutely.
Nice
I just followed you on Instagram.
Stay in touch.
And I'm going to follow you on all the things.
Nice. Awesome. And then send me this and I'll share it and all that stuff.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Take care, Anna.
Thanks,
have a great
guys.
weekend.
Have a wonderful weekend.
Bye.